Hanny Time. A daily look at sports from our resident historian. Your sports break during your lunch break. Live from the Mercedes-Benz of Baton Rouge studios. Here's Charles Sandegriff.
Hey, good afternoon. Welcome to Hanny Time, 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge. I'm Charles Sandegriff along with Mario Jerez and Taylor Sharp. Chris Rosvoglu from Boo Crew Media with us here in about 15 minutes. Maybe he can make some sense of last night with the Saints. Dwayne Colucci with us at the bottom of the hour. I had to take last week off. He is back with us today. We'll find out where the action is in Las Vegas. I walked into the studio, and Mario assured me, he says, Saints, everything's going to be fine. Taylor looked at him like he was slightly crazy, and he said, oh, hang on. I'm at the franchise. Yeah, not the team. Well, I'm glad that you come to work every day, Mario, with such a positive outlook on life. Look, I'm serious. It kind of invigorates me. You know, I'm an older guy. You're a younger guy. You come in with that kind of attitude, man. You can find some positive in that. I want you working on my team.
Thank you, Hanny.
Yeah,
all you can do in times like this.
I mean, please. 17-16 heartbreaker last night to the Saints. The amount of outrage escaped me personally. Okay. I got a bunch of texts when this is over, and obviously Twitter was on fire. It's like, oh my goodness, the season's over. I'm sorry. In my head, the season ended several weeks ago. The Pittsburgh loss was pretty much the last straw for me. Didn't think that this team had it in them to go on a run, and if they didn't think that they had it in them to advance in the playoffs if they managed to squeak in because they were in a bad division. So the losses sting me more when there's really something on the line, okay? And I didn't feel like, even if the Saints won last night, that there was, a path forward in this season. When this season is over, there's going to be some really, really difficult choices for the Saints hierarchy to make. And we'll probably get into that a little bit more in the next several weeks. But for now, let's talk about the game and how Tom Brady was able to put 2 touchdowns on the board in the last 3 minutes and 3 seconds to snatch away what should have been a victory for the Saints. They were in control of this game for a lot of the action, even though the yardstick got a little bit slanted towards Tampa with those 2 late drives. Make no mistake, New Orleans was in control of this game. But when you kick that many field goals, when you miss out on that many opportunities to score, there's always that nervousness in the back of your head. The back door is still swinging open. So I know that the play that everybody is going crazy over is the one with a little over 6 minutes to go when Mark Ingram went out of bounds before he made the first down. And it was a terrible play. Ingram got on Twitter and apologized for it. Ingram's been a very good player for New Orleans for a long time. I'm not putting the whole thing on him, but it was a bad play. It was one of those kind of backbreakers, and the Saints compounded it by throwing a pass to Marquez Callaway the next play. Okay, so that was a bad sequence. But I'm going to go back. The Saints had so many opportunities before that could have. So that's the highlight. Okay, that's the one that's right there at the top of the marquee. But let me take you back to where the Saints, they could have put this game away long before that. Let me give you some situations that maybe didn't get as much run last night on Twitter when the outrage over the Ingram play. You go all the way back to the second drive. They're on Tampa's 43-yard line. They play in 2nd down and 6, and they give a carry to Taysom Hill. And Hill goes down to the 38-yard line, which would have brought up 3rd down and 1. Now, at the 38-yard line, you're right on the edge of Will Lutz. He can make a 55-yarder, but you're right there on the edge of field goal range already, if not in his field goal range. And you get a holding penalty on James Hurst. It turns into, instead of 3rd and 1 at the 38, it turns into 2nd and 16, and they have to punt. And here's the part where I remind you that the Saints are second to last in the NFL in penalty yardage for the year. Who's behind them? The only team worse than the Saints in penalties this year. Mario, real quick, let's see if you're listening every day. Who's the worst coach in the league?
Denver.
Yep, Denver Broncos, okay? That's who they are ahead of. All right, so you lose an opportunity to score there. Second quarter, 3rd and 9 to Tampa 39. Andy Dalton throws a perfect pass to Chris Olave. He dropped it, 17-yard line. That's a sure field goal and maybe a touchdown. Chris Olave has had a really good year. I think he's a terrific player. I think he's going to be a star in the league. You have to make that catch. That is a 3 to 7 point catch right there, the 17-yard line. There's nobody around you. The ball is perfectly placed. It's a nice soft throw. It's not, one of these ones that you're humming in there. You got it. That's another place where you lose some ground, you lose points. Second drive of the second half started the New Orleans 32, got all the way down to the Tampa Bay 3-yard line. This is a very nice drive. Okay, there's 3:33 to go at this point. The Saints at this stage of the game have a 10-3 lead, and they're playing 3rd and 2 at the Tampa Bay 3. Now, technically, if it falls right here, the Saints could have run 6 plays to make 3 yards. Okay, if they run it on 3rd down and they get a yard, and they run again on 4th down, and they get another yard, and they get a first down at the 1, they get 4 more plays. You could have so the play that they ran, you could have run 6 plays to get 3 yards at this point. And what do? They put 12 people in the huddle. Now, I got to give Nick Underhill credit for putting this stat out, because I would have never gotten this one. So I want to give him credit. He put this out last night. The Saints have 12 people on the field in a crucial goal line situation against Tampa. The NFL's penalty database goes back to 2009, the year the Saints won the Super Bowl. In the 13 years between 2009 and when Sean Payton retired, how many times did they have 12 people on the field? 0. Not one time in 13 seasons did Sean Payton put 12 people on the field. That is an amazing statistic and tells you just another layer of how good a coach that guy was. This is attention to detail. This isn't even a small detail. This is a big detail. 12 people versus 11 is a big deal. And so what happens? They back up. They don't get the touchdown. They go, it's 13-3 instead of 17-3. 17-3 late in the third quarter would have felt like a very, very big lead. As it turns out, it would have been enough probably to win the game. And then you got the Ingram thing. Then finally, the last drive, your opportunity to put this thing away. 2nd down and 7. Dalton goes back to pass. There's nobody open. He gets sacked. 3rd and 17. He makes another fantastic throw. I mean, Andy Dalton last night, the 2 throws, the one to Olave and the one to Taysom Hill. Look, I know Hill got popped. All right, defensive back comes in, and he's pretty violent right there. But if your quarterback makes that throw and it's 3rd down and 17 and you got a chance to convert there and put the game away, you got to make that catch. I mean, you're asking the quarterback to make that throw. You put yourself by your own doing in 3rd down and long, and he makes that throw. You got to make that catch. So you have to punt the football back, and everybody knows what happened. Said it 2 months ago after the first, I think it was 6 games. Are you a well-coached team? Well, you're second to last in the NFL in penalty yardage to the Broncos. You are second to last in the NFL in turnover margin too. Not the Broncos, ironically, but the Colts, who are kind of a mess right now. They had to go to ESPN to find their coach, and I don't want to rip on Jeff Saturday. It's not his fault. I like Saturday an awful lot, but it's kind of unorthodox what the Colts did. That's who you are ahead of right now. You're ahead of the worst coach in the league in penalty yardage. You're ahead of an ESPN analyst in turnover margin. That's it. Yikes. So all that was real bad. We're going to talk to Chris Rosvoglu, but I want to take some other time in the open here to talk about Kayshon Boutte and his decision to return to LSU. I'm gonna come clean here. There's been more than one time this year, particularly early in the season, where I thought that Boutte was a little bit disengaged. That whether it was that he wasn't on the same page as the quarterback, not on the same page as the coach, whatever it was, just disengaged. And it was easy to think, and I, kind of made this assumption. He's got his mind on the NFL. He's got one foot out the door. And did the Derek Stingley thing kind of turn me off? You betcha it did. Because Stingley had one foot out the door from the end of his freshman year. And it showed. on the field. And I thought, well, here we go again. But here's the difference. Boutte kept playing. He didn't put himself in the transfer portal. He didn't opt out. And he was coming back from a pretty serious injury, one that he hadn't said this, but just the eyeball test tells me that the double surgery that he had to have after last year was a little bit tougher to come back than maybe he let on. And look, you got to have 2 surgeries. That's a big deal. Missed all of spring. Missed that developmental time with the quarterback. Missed that developmental time with the coach on the field. You know, he was there, but he wasn't able to practice. He's still there. Into the late part of the season, he's still there. SEC championship game, he's making a big play, and now he's decided to come back, meaning that LSU's receiver room is loaded. And as we get into this transfer portal window, it's the one position on the team where LSU doesn't need any other help. They don't need to go to the wide receiver. They don't need to go to the transfer portal to pick up a wide receiver. Any other position on the team, except for quarterback, if Daniels comes back. If Daniels comes back, they don't need to get in the portal for a quarterback. If Daniels doesn't come back, they may look at bringing in a veteran transfer to maybe in a backup role. But the wide receiver room is, as long as everybody that's eligible to come back comes back and is healthy, plus what they've got in the signing class, they're set. And for Boutte, listen, he's had multiple opportunities to fly the coop on LSU. He had multiple offers, I'm pretty comfortable saying that, in the transfer portal last year. Could have said, you know what, season stunk, guy that recruited me is leaving, I don't know the new guy, I'm out of here. Didn't do it, stuck around. He was compensated, okay? Could have went to Alabama. Could have went to Texas A&M too. I don't think that part of the story ever got really as much run. Believe me, the Aggies made a run too. Could have opted out then. Nope. Got in the spring, a little bit of a testy start with Brian Kelly. Could have said, forget this, man. I'm out. I'm going rehab somewhere else. I'm going practice somewhere else. I'm going to go play in the NFL. I'll get drafted. I'll go to pro day. I'll go to the combine. I'll get drafted. I'll go make a living. I'm done. Didn't do it. Got off to a rocky start with the quarterback. Got off to a rocky start in the first game. Could have said, yeah, you know what? That injury's not really healing. I'm going to opt out. Nope. Didn't do it. Stuck around. End of the season, could have said, I'm going pro. He's going to get drafted. Probably had slid. I'm going to talk about that in a second. Probably had slid, but could have said, I'm out. Could have even, in a nightmare scenario, transferred somewhere else. Can you imagine that? Can you imagine Kayshon Boutte playing for another Southeastern Conference team against LSU next year? Could have happened. All 13 of them would have taken him. Didn't do it. Decided to come back. And I think it's the best choice for him. I think Brian Kelly put a very positive spin on it when he said, at whatever point in the season, he said, hey, this is not really hurting Kayshon's draft status. I'm sorry. I disagree. It was hurt. He had slid. And would he have gone to the combine and if he'd had a good run there and a good run at pro day and all that, would he have, moved himself back up a little bit? Yes. Would it have been as high as he was rated before the season? In my opinion, no. There was going to be money left on the table for Boutte if he had to call this season the last line on his resume going into next year's NFL draft. Now he's got a chance to rewrite the narrative. He's got a chance to make himself a lot of money next year. And now you have an entire summer with Boutte and whoever ends up being the LSU quarterback next year to work on that chemistry that he did not have a chance to do last year. I think it's a strong move by him. I think it's the right move by him. If he had gone pro, I'd say, well, look, I understand you're going to get paid. He's got a chance to get paid a whole lot more. He talked about love of LSU, and I believe that too. I don't believe it's the only reason, but I believe if Kayshon Boutte had come to LSU from Georgia or Florida or Texas, there's a much greater chance that he would have been out the door. With this, he's got obviously an emotional bond to the school. He's had a lot of success here, wants to have more people around him. I mean, the guy's from New Iberia, okay? That's LSU country, partner. I grew up down there. Believe me, that's purple and gold country. So the people around him obviously are, hey, look, man, you want to go back to LSU? We all for you. He can make a lot of money. He can rewrite the last line on his resume by this time next year. LSU can win. I think it's a great deal all the way around. But more than anything, to the kid, hey, you're sticking it out. You're doing things the harder way. Okay, you had a bad break up at Kentucky, but you're not taking the easy way out on all this stuff. And I think he's going to be handsomely rewarded at the end of this thing, both in his college experience and his pro experience. I hope. I'll be rooting for that guy next year to come back and have a big year because he's not taking the easy way out. And again, there's reasons for him personally. He would not. I say this with as much confidence I can tell you. He would not, if they had an NFL draft in August where Kayshon Boutte would have gone and where he would go in that draft next April, the draft next April would have been lower. How much lower? Who can say? I hope it works out for him. I think that he's shown a maturity here. And, he became a father this year. So sometimes it changes your perspective. No, not sometimes. Always. It changes your perspective on things. I hope it works out for him. If it works out for him, it's going to work out for LSU. I said it a year ago. Brian Kelly and Kayshon Boutte need each other. They did. This year, they don't. Kayshon Boutte could go to the NFL and get paid. And Brian Kelly's going to have a very good team coming back next year, and he'll have a chance to compete. Last year, they needed each other. They don't this year. I hope they want each other. It's a terrible way to say it, all right? Kayshon Boutte has said, I want to come back. Brian Kelly said, I want him back. It's good for all of the parties. I hope it works out. We'll take a break. Chris Rosvoglu from Boot Crew Media. When we return, this is Hanny Time, 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
This is Hanny Time.
If you're a business owner and you're having a problem with staffing, if you're a business owner, almost by definition, you're probably having a problem with staffing. Let Tiger Labor and Staffing take care of, the intensive process of background checks and interviews, all your screening, all your training. Let them do that for you so you won't have the frustration of no-show interviews. You won't have the frustration of unqualified applicants coming to your business. Tiger Labor and Staffing will handle the interview process, and they'll also handle the onboarding. Extremely time-consuming processes. They'll take care of that for you. If you need somebody for a day, a week, a month, you get to control the labor expenses. You increase your flexibility. You need seasonal employees here during the holidays. They'll be able to help you there. And the employment risk attempt to hire options, only 60 days. That's the lowest in the industry. If you're looking for a job, Tiger Labor and Staffing welcome skilled and unskilled labor. They'll match you with a job that fits, quick turnarounds on pay. Tiger Labor and Staffing. Success begins with the eye of the tiger. Go to tigerlabor.com.
Professional golfers John Peterson and JJ Colleen answer all your golf and life questions inside the new Drop Biscuit Studios podcast for the people. Download or subscribe today at dropbiscuit.com.
Gulf Coast Office Products is a nationally recognized Savin office equipment dealer based right here in Louisiana. Over 100 employees strong, Gulf Coast has the boots on the ground to support all vertical markets, from education, engineering, legal, and finance. With the latest in office technology, from desktop to production segment units, Gulf Coast and Savin have the perfect fit for you. Call 225-756-2644. That's 756-2644 for Gulf Coast Office Products.
This is a house call. This is a follow-up appointment. This is a diabetes checkup. This isn't just more convenient care, it's more advanced care. This is innovating healthcare at Louisiana's #1 hospital, Ochsner.
Winter can be magical. The Mercedes-Benz winter event is here, and there's no better time to check out our new Mercedes-Benz of Baton Rouge inventory. We have the vehicles that can make your holiday extraordinary. See all the latest technological features on the newest models during our Mercedes-Benz winter event. Shop our best of the best award-winning dealership. Visit mbobr.com.
I've been doing business with Luba for 25 years. They're dependable, trustworthy. It's just the attention to detail with our clients.
Our folks have years and years of experience. They're highly trained professionals, but many companies have that asset. What I'd like to think makes Luba a bit different is that we use those talents in a way that truly is dedicated to serving the needs of the folks who depend on us.
Oh, hey, what's up? It's Big D and Bubba, 100.7 The Tiger Morning Show. We'd love for you to join us every weekday, 4 a.m. till 9 a.m.
Yeah, everything you want in a show. Country music. We got laughs. We got celebrity in-studio guests. We just need you.
Join us every weekday morning, 4 a.m. to 9 a.m., right where it all started.
That's right. Louisiana's country station, 100.7 The Tiger.
Bayou Ford has the new inventory to get you in a new Ford truck or SUV today, or customize your next vehicle just the way you want it. All new Bayou Ford vehicles come with a 1 million mile powertrain warranty.
It's Hunt. Join me on Tuesday, 1 to 3. We'll have Glenn West talking Tigers and Sharif Ishak recapping Saints and Bucks. Hunt Palmer, 1 to 3, ESPN, Baton Rouge.
This is Hanny Time with Charles Hannegriff on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
Podcast is posted 1045ESPN.com for the day. We take a look back at the transfer portal and how LSU did and what they might be doing in it this year. By the way, A&M's I'm cashing my A&M ticket. 5 more in the transfer portal today. That makes it 19 by my unofficial count. Taylor, what did I have? We said you had 6? 15. 15. Okay, so we're over. All right, we are officially cashing the ticket on that one right now. Joining us now from Boot Crew Media, Chris Rosvoglu, trying to make some sense of the crash last night in Tampa. Chris, good afternoon. How are you?
I'm trying to do as well as possible, but yeah, everything's good on this end. Hope everything's good with you guys.
Yeah, you know, the way the game obviously finished, it got all of the headlines. If you know, Scott Van Pelt does a big Monday night review, and Ryan Clark is there, and he talks to Aikman and Buck and all those guys. So, you know, ESPN's got so much money invested in Monday Night Football that they do a big review, and most of it was about what happened at the end. But, Chris, there were so many mistakes that were made in the first 3.5 quarters to get them to that point that I know why the headline is, you know, Brady, you know, engineers comeback. But this was a contest that, like many of the Saints games this year, was just riddled with mistakes. Which one stood out to you the most?
You know, the one that stands out to me the most is probably the one that Saints fans have been kind of complaining about for at least the last 12 hours. And I would say it's the play where Mark Ingram kind of runs out of bounds short of the first down marker. And there's kind of 2 arguments to it. The first argument is, well, maybe he was hurt. And my counter argument would be, okay, if he was banged up, and we know earlier in the game he did hurt his knee, then maybe that play call shouldn't be designed for Mark Ingram. Maybe it should be for Alvin Kamara, where they're kind of dumping it off in the flats. And that's one where he steps out of bounds. It's 3rd and 1 now, even though they should have had a first down off that play. And then instead of either running the football with Taysom or just calling a different type of play, they call a pass play that it looks like it was actually designed for Adam Prentice, but Dalton throws to Callaway incomplete. You punt the ball back, and that kind of just starts the whole process of the Buccaneers making their comeback. And what makes it so infuriating, it happened at Tampa Bay's 44-yard line. It wasn't like they were in their own territory. The Saints were moving down the field, decided to punt it. I just think, to your point, you talk about how many moments led to this, whether it was that drive, whether it was earlier in the game when they were settling for field goals. Every time the Saints had a chance to really step on the Buccaneers' throat and kind of end this game, they just couldn't do it, whether it were drops or just bad play calling or just miscues. Like, when does Mark Ingram step out a yard ahead of the first down marker? That's just a shocker to me. So that's kind of the one that I look at when I go back to how they kind of collapsed and what led to the Bucs comeback.
And isn't this indicative, kind of a microcosm of the Saints season? They've had opportunities in other games that they were not able to capitalize on. when you analyze a coach, don't you have to say, hey, is your team better at the end of the season than they are at the beginning of the season? And this one is clearly not.
Yeah, on both accounts, I agree. For starters, you talk about, this team and whether or not it was a microcross of this entire really season. And I would say yes. I mean, because when I watched the Saints this year, there were maybe 2 games where they just really got beat badly. And one of them was the Ravens game on Monday night. And the other one I would actually say was early in the year against Carolina, where they just came out flat and looked terrible. But you think about the 49ers game, you think about this Buccaneers game, you think about the Cardinals game. So many self-inflicted wounds that this team makes that we're just not accustomed to seeing, at least pre-2022. So that definitely goes into, perfectly describing. As for Dennis Allen, I've been saying that I do think changes need to be made. At the same time, I've also said I don't know if the Saints really want to fire him after 1 year. But, if this continues and you go into the offseason 5-12, at best 6-11, because that seems to be their highest ceiling at this point. This wasn't supposed to be a 6-11 team. This wasn't supposed to be a 5-12 team, and it sure wasn't supposed to be a 4-9 team heading into the bye week. And I think that for the Saints, this wasn't the type of roster that you entered this season thinking about having a rebuild and it being a 3-year, 5-year type of plan. The plan was to keep this ship kind of steering in the right direction. And on Monday night, it officially hit the iceberg. And I think for well now, you have to look yourself in the mirror and really think about what type of changes you have to make in the offseason.
All right, Mario, let's see if we can get another connection. We're about to lose him. To Chris's point, the way this roster was put together was with the idea that they would be a playoff team, that they would make a run, that Jameis Winston would be a quarterback with some upside, that he had the possibility to get them to the playoffs. It's why you made the trade. The trade with the Eagles. They didn't have to make that trade. It was a trade that was made with the present in mind rather than the future. They gambled that the first-round pick that they were sending to Philadelphia would be better served to them in 2022 than it would be in 2023. You make that trade because you think the pick in 2023 is going to be in the 20s. And instead, I'm sure they thought about it as being a pick in the 30s, Chris. But now that pick is a top 5 pick. That's the kind of trade, to your point about the roster, that's the kind of trade you make if you think you are a playoff team with the shot at making a run at the Super Bowl. And that one has, even if Penning and Olave are good players, that trade is really blown up in your face.
Yeah, it absolutely has. And, that trade blew up. You signed Tyrann Mathieu, you signed Marcus May, you signed Jarvis Landry. This was all win-now moves, and you watched last night's game, and I can't say any of those 3 players in particular put a real stamp on it. May had a really nice tackle early in the game. Thought Mathieu had some nice moments, but overall, a lot of the decisions the Saints made this year, they really just haven't panned out, outside of the Chris Olave move. That's the type of trade as the season goes on, and, it keeps getting worse. You're like, okay, is it top 5? Is it top 3? And it's a tough pill to swallow, because if you were a 4-9 team and you owned your pick, at least some Saints fans this morning could talk about, hey, Bryce Young might look good in the black and gold, or maybe C.J. Stroud, or any quarterback prospect they fancy. They just can't do that now.
And the decisions in the offseason are going to be really difficult, because when you look at where the Saints have their money, they've got it in deep veteran players, older veteran players, not young veteran players. A couple. Lattimore and Ramczyk are younger veteran players. They got a bunch of money in Cam Jordan. They got a bunch of money in Andrews Pete. They got a bunch of money in David Onyemata. They got a bunch of money in Alvin Kamara, who's not an old player, but he's an older running back now. These are hard choices that the Saints are having to make. We were talking about Cam Jordan a minute ago. There's nobody I respect more than Cam Jordan. He is still playing at a high level, but for how much longer? This is the biggest cap number that you've got right now. And are you going to be in a position to contend again while Cam Jordan is still in his prime? I had to swallow the fact that Ricky Jackson won a Super Bowl at the end of his career with the San Francisco 49ers, which killed me, okay? But these are the kind of hard decisions the Saints are going to have to make, is even though there's these productive veterans, do they really fit the roster as it's going to be configured in 2023?
Yeah, and the 2 names that I always think about, you mentioned Cam Jordan. I thought about it yesterday. I would love to see him get a shot at a Super Bowl. It doesn't seem like it's going to happen right now in New Orleans. Does it happen elsewhere? Maybe, even though it'll be a tough pill to swallow. But the one that I think makes the most sense right now is actually DeMario Davis. And the reason I say that, I still think DeMario is good enough to make an impact on a playoff caliber team. But on the flip side, more importantly for the Saints, Caden Ellis has been really a revelation over the last month of the season. You know that Pete Werner is really, at this point, kind of a certified stud when he's healthy. You could get younger at the linebacker position, getting an asset for DeMario, also doing right by him because he could go to a contender. So that's one I look at. You know, Alvin Kamara is another fascinating one because I kept saying it before the season. I thought the Saints had to get younger at running back, whether it was through the draft, through free agency, and we're seeing it now. Like, this is a backfield that doesn't have a lot of pop. So do you either add someone to that mix with Kamara, or do you move on from Kamara and get, two new running backs in the group here? I think these are decisions they're going to have to make. And, of course, obviously, the cherry on top of everything is figuring out what they do with Michael Thomas in the offseason. That will be something, too. So there are so many factors that kind of go into this.
Yeah, there's a lot of hard decisions that they're going to have to make. Chris, as always, we appreciate it. Boot Crew Media covering the Saints. We'll talk to you next week.
Sounds great. Thank you for having me.
We'll take a break when we come back. Dwayne Colucci from Las Vegas. This is Hanny Time, 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
This is Hanny Time.
Here in this holiday season, you cooking some rice? Holiday parties, holiday family get-togethers. If you're cooking with rice, make it Supreme Rice. Support our Louisiana farmers. All of our Supreme Rice is grown, milled, and processed down in southwest Louisiana. Has been since the 1930s. So whether you're cooking with the brown rice, the long grain, the medium grain, or the jasmine, make it Supreme Rice. You're going to stretch your food dollar, and you're going to enjoy a delicious product. So easy to get. All of your AG food stores, all of your Walmarts, all of your Rouses, and when you're cooking with Supreme Rice, you're going to know that it's a homegrown product, and you're going to enjoy it very much, whether it's an etouffee, red beans, whether it's a stew, or, of course, a gumbo. Supreme Rice. For more information and some unique recipes here in this holiday season, go to supremerice.com.
Our listeners fire off their opinions on the jimsfirearms.net hotline at 499-1045. Keep listening for your next chance to shoot us your thoughts with the jimsfirearms.net hotline on 1045 ESPN Baton Rouge.
Bayou Ford has the new inventory to get you in a new Ford truck or SUV today, or customize your next vehicle just the way you want. All new Bayou Ford vehicles come with a 1 million mile powertrain warranty. The crew at Bayou Ford is going to do right by you.
Louisiana. It's a place defined by culture, by pride, by passion, by people who do more than love this place. They celebrate it, elevate it, champion it. They are the individuals who embody what makes Louisiana great. The companies that make Louisiana a better place to work and live. The nonprofits leading transformational change in our communities. Champions of Louisiana are all around us, and LWCC is proud to celebrate them because we've always been Louisiana loyal, supporting the workers, the innovators, the change agents of this great place we call home. Who are the champions around you? Together, we can share their stories. Together, we can help our home state thrive. Together, we are Louisiana loyal. Always.
Service Mastery Elite create clean, disinfected work environments. As a local business, we take pride in serving the New Orleans and Baton Rouge areas. Our cleaning protocols follow CDC and OSHA standards for healthcare settings, offices, senior living, restaurants, and industrial plants. Contact Service Mastery Elite to get your operation ready for reopening with germ disinfection cleaning. Service Mastery Elite, the trusted choice in professional cleaning since 1996.
It's no secret, the best oysters in Baton Rouge are at Jolie Pearl Oyster Bar. Enjoy mouth-watering South Louisiana flavor and oysters from all over the country. Don't forget our nightly drink specials. Jolie Pearl Oyster Bar, located in downtown Baton Rouge.
Eli's always been into grilling. It took us a while to see it, but the signs were there.
What are you doing, Eli?
I knew grilling was my thing. I have been talking about it throughout my career.
Happy with the results?
I am. Got the new grill from barbecueguys.com. It performed great.
My advice, as I always told my boys,
do more of what you're born to do.
Barbecue Guys, for those who were born to grill.
You want cheese on your burger, Pops?
I'll take a little cheese.
There's nothing better than tailgating, but it can be a lot of work. So why do it yourself?
Matt Moscona inviting you to join us for Tuesday's AFR, presented by Insurance Network of Louisiana. The first domino has fallen. Kayshon Boutte returning for his senior season. We'll have the latest out of the portal, and we'll recap Saints-Bucks. Join us, 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
This is Hanny Time with Charles Hannegriff on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
And we get out to Las Vegas. Dwayne Colucci, after 1 week off, is back with us. Colucci, how you doing, man?
Doing well, Charlie. How about yourself?
Doing fantastic. We got a little wound licking going on here with the way that Saints game ended last night. So we're just assessing the damage at this point, but it's pretty significant, as you would imagine. We're gonna try to move past that and just get the Saints to the finish line and put that in the rearview mirror. Hey, I want to ask you first about the college football playoffs and the opening lines for TCU, Michigan, and Ohio State, Georgia. And any early movement, I know the Sharps are willing to pounce on lines as soon as they come out if they feel like they're a little bit out of whack. What's the action look like on the two playoff games?
Yeah, we're getting steady action. I'll be honest with you there, Charlie. As soon as we put the lines up, the Sharps definitely attack like Sharks. So, you definitely have a great Final Four. A lot of people are clamoring about Alabama and all that. We definitely know there's some parity involved.
Not
but we
me.
opened Michigan.
Not me.
I know you guys. Well, I know you guys love it. I mean, anytime Saban's up against the knife, anybody in LSU, those fans, and in Baton Rouge and Louisiana, they just love it. And, it is good to see a change-up once in a while, Charlie. You see the same old teams, and it starts to get a little stale, even though we all know the SEC strength of schedule is so much better. And you had guys like Chris Sims even coming out and saying, I played in the Big 12. It's just not as competitive. They're picking the wrong teams. But putting that all aside, we do have Michigan and Harbaugh involved now, which is definitely going to be an attraction. And we actually took a lot of TCU money. Well, we opened the game, Charlie, at 9, and now we're down to 8. Total action is going to be steady. I think we'll get good two-way. We opened it at 60. We're sitting at 60 in that game. And then the other game, naturally, Georgia is the best team in the country. It's so proven otherwise. I think they're a powerhouse and going to buzzsaw through these both games. They're sitting, we opened it at 6, now 6.5. And 61 is the total there. And, I have to say that if any team was on the outside looking in, I still felt it was Ohio State. I mean, Michigan just destroyed them. They played a mediocre schedule. I know the Big 12 ain't much better, Charlie, but, I mean, that was the team that was definitely in question. And most of the public were pointing their fingers at TCU. I think it was Ohio State.
And no question that Ohio State did get demolished in that last game. But let me ask it this way, Dwayne. Georgia's a 6.5-point favorite over Ohio State. What would you have opened Georgia TCU if it had gone that way? TCU had been the 4 seed. How big of an underdog would TCU have been to Georgia?
Yeah, naturally, I would have made them probably about 10 double digits. But,
Yeah.
It's just the Ohio State name that merits all that respect, and you have to rein it in. Us bookmakers, we look at it from all angles, Charlie, and we know how popular Ohio State was for 90% of the season until that Michigan egg that they laid. And Ohio State were running the table, but then that was a massive hiccup, whereas in my opinion, TCU went for it all. They fell flat on that last play, unfortunately. It's definitely weird how these games play out as you get later on in the season, where teams that weren't as good in the regular season become more and more and more competitive. And, teams like Tennessee, Georgia, Alabama, all these SEC teams, they beat up each other the whole season, and Georgia really came out smelling like a rose. So, definitely, I think the right teams are there, but we definitely would have garnered more handle if Alabama was involved. I'm not going to lie.
Hey, Dwayne, how harrowing is it as a line maker for these bowl games to know that the transfer portal opened yesterday and there are players going in that literally we're getting updates, minute to minute, and that you got to set a line on, I'm just going to pick a game, Texas Tech, Ole Miss, knowing that an hour from now, one of these teams might have half a dozen guys put their name in the transfer portal.
Yeah, it's very difficult, and that's why we hold off. I credit to Circa and Westgate and all those other properties that put their lines up immediately. But you're already seeing a team like Alabama. I saw, I'm watching the ticker. 6 to 7 players are already in the transfer portal. So you have to take this into consideration. You want to make a concise line. You're going to have some coaches that won't coach these games as well. You might have some coaching offers. You're already seeing Dion, although it won't affect anything. He's already making the jump. And some other coaching positions will become available, in my opinion. And also this transfer portal makes it even more and more difficult. There are so many factors nowadays, Charlie, being a bookmaker, in-game wagering for all these games, on the fly, making those on commercial breaks. Plus you have this transfer portal. So much going on. We have to be precise, and we try and put out the best product at Rampart and South Point. And Chris Andrews does a fabulous job. Jimmy, Vinny. It's just an amazing team, and, I'm proud to be a part of that. But it is very difficult making these lines on the fly. That's why we have the Final Four up. We will gradually put up the bowl games this week and have the complete menu by the end of the week.
Switch to the NFL. I want to ask you about the Bengals and the win against the Chiefs, following up a win over the Titans. Cincinnati got on a roll last year at the end and made it all the way to the Super Bowl. So they got off to the slow start. Burrow had the appendix that cost him most of camp. They got off to a slow start, but they look to be hitting their stride right now. And especially with Baltimore having Lamar Jackson's availability really kind of in limbo right now, at least for the next week or two. I'm wondering what your thinking is on the Bengals, both in the individual games and as a futures play.
They look like the best team in the AFC, if you ask me, Charlie. I'll be honest with you. I mean, when you're undefeated against Patrick Mahomes, you have all that adversity, like you said, the appendix issue with the man, Joe Burrow. Then you had Chase on the shelf for multiple weeks. And they're right there now beating the Chiefs once again and just proving how strong this team is. And that effort last year was not a fluke. You're seeing Buffalo go through a transitional period, although they played well. Let's keep in mind, Buffalo technically won 3 road games, even though they stayed in Detroit. Those were 3 games, and I don't care what the competition was. The last game was just a destruction of a division rival. So definitely Buffalo is right there, but Cincinnati is peaking at the right time. And if they could avoid the injury bug, Charlie, they become a hot item in the futures market. And we're seeing more and more ticket right. Naturally, we're seeing a lot of Cowboy action now as well. Dallas is really starting to play well. They have the best point differential in the NFL. And, definitely they have opened up some games that it seemed like they were close games. And by the end of the game, you're scratching your head and saying, wow, where did the competition go? So definitely a lot of Cincinnati action, a lot of Cowboy action on the futures market. Cincinnati, they've been there. They have that experience, and that is so important. And Joe Burrow has massive experience. You know that. I mean, you guys watch this guy firsthand. He is the real deal. I mean, I love the way the kid plays the game. Bengals are right now 5-1 to win the AFC at the Rampart and South Point. Chiefs and Bills are still at 2-1. Remember, those are AFC odds. The NFL championship, we're seeing even more action on the Bengals. They're now 12-1. So I think they're a definite futures play. I like the way they're starting to play as a team late in the season like they did last year. And certain teams, in my opinion, Charlie, they just peak a little too early. Dallas is peaking at the right time, but still a lot of football to be played. You saw all the injuries last week. You have to keep in mind, Garoppolo out for the season. Now, like you said, Lamar Jackson, that is a huge injury. And it's the same old story with Lamar, Charlie. I mean, when it's peak time for Baltimore to play their game, it seems like he's on the injured list. And this is another type of injury that, like last year, he'll come back. Harbaugh, yeah, he'll be back. He'll be back. He never came back. And this is another injury where 1 to 3 weeks. Well, that could stretch into 3 to 4, knowing Lamar Jackson.
You mentioned the Cowboys. Christmas Eve at my house, it's pretty much the same thing every year. We make a shrimp and corn soup. We open up a holiday spirit. We get around as a family, and we have a really nice time. I can promise you Cowboys-Eagles is going to be on, because that's the one game of the rest of the regular season that I can't wait to see. Philadelphia is at Dallas on Christmas Eve, 3:25 our time. So I got to check the church schedule, because we usually go to church at 4. I have to go to church early on Christmas Eve, or maybe we're going to go to midnight mass. Maybe they're still doing midnight. Yeah, still doing midnight mass. So we got to find that, because that's going to be a great game. Here's my favorite line of the week, Dwayne. The Vikings are at the Lions, and the Lions, the 5-7 Lions, are a 2.5-point choice over the 10-2 Vikings. Nobody seems to, want to invest in the Vikings. Well, they're 10-2, but it's a hollow 10-2. They're kind of the NFL version of TCU, right? Nobody really believes in them.
Correct.
Leos have won 4 out of 5, and the loss was a close loss to Buffalo on Thanksgiving Day. There's a reason. You look at this line and go, man, this is screwy. If you've been watching, it's really not. Detroit's maybe playing better football than Minnesota right now.
Yeah, Detroit is really playing well, and they've been definitely a thorn in our side against the spread. They have a fabulous spread record. So you have to take that into consideration when you're betting and you're setting up a legitimate point spread. And right off the bat, as you start to hear more and more, what's funny, Charlie, is that when the broadcasts start to say, oh, Minnesota's not the real deal, ESPN starts to put stuff out there, you start to see propaganda against a team that actually only has 2 losses, and that also sways the public. So I have to keep that in mind as a bookmaker as well, Charlie. And we took a ton of Detroit action. We opened it at 1 at the Rampart and South Point, and now it's up to 2. I wouldn't sell Minnesota short. Let me tell you something. The Jets had a million chances in that game. I watched that game, and they did not win the game. They were on the 1-yard line, the 2-yard line. Mike White, is fabulous and as, put on a pedestal he wasn't all that great. I'll be honest with you. He was good and able to get those, deep strikes when Minnesota was in prevent, but still a credit to this Minnesota team. They only have 2 losses. And, everybody, they're luckily winning games. I don't buy into all that. You still have to play the game between the lines. I think Minnesota is not the best team in the NFC, but they could definitely upset a playoff situation, and they're going to be playing at home. Keep that in mind, because there is nobody in that division that's going to catch them. So, we're seeing a lot of Detroit action, Charlie, but I wouldn't buy into Minnesota being a terrible team. I mean, they're a good team.
No, they're not terrible. It seems like the public's had a hard time buying into it. I got to go quicker because I want to get the hockey picks, but I got to ask you about Louisville. Now we're getting into college basketball. This is a very, very proud program, and they are just among the worst college basketball teams that I have ever seen at the major level. Not only are they 0-8, they're 0-8 against the number, and they're 0-8 against the number by a lot. Dwayne, they got teams covering the spread by double-digit points every night against this group. I don't know how much people have been circling around the carcass that is Louisville basketball, but, man, I'm shocked that program that has so much history is so bad.
Yeah, it really is. It's shocking. And, you're seeing a lot of teams. I mean, look at Cal. They're 0-9 in the Pac-12. And, you're seeing a lot of changes, a lot of turnarounds in college basketball. Then you have the state of Texas, where you have 2 great teams with Houston and Texas. So, definitely the Sharps, this is their time for college basketball, because we have all the other sports that are going on. And definitely you are seeing a lot of people that are, vultures flying around the carcass. That was a great, great statement that you made there. And, certain teams, they just can't get out of their own way. 208 KenPom. Let me put it to you that way.
Oof,
colleges like Campbell and Queens are ahead of them.
All right, I got about a minute. Give me what you got in the NHL tonight. You like anything?
Yeah, definitely. There's a lot of good matchups tonight on the ice. I don't think St. Louis will be able to react, on a back-to-back after that game last night against the Rangers. That was very difficult. I'm liking the Islanders at home. The Islanders have good goaltending. They're starting to get a lot of shots on goal and play a good offensive brand. Let's look at the Islanders. I mean, the Kraken are 250. I watched that Canadian game. My Habs. They lost a terrible game to Vancouver last night. But I can't lay 250. But if you want a winner, for parlay, Seattle, the Kraken are going to be very, very difficult. In the marquee matchup, Dallas and Toronto, I'll take a chance with Toronto on the road. I think they have to start winning road games. Game is like probably you could find, a minus 105, maybe an even money on that game. So definitely Islanders, Toronto, and, Seattle. But I wouldn't bet. I would just put them in parlays because I don't like laying the puck line.
Kaluch, you're the best, man. We appreciate it. We'll talk to you next week.
Thanks, Charlie. I appreciate it. Thanks for having me on.
Dwayne Colucci from the South Point and the Rampart. Back to wrap it up here. This is Hanny Time, 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
This is Hanny Time.
And our friends over at Big Mike's, live music every weekend. Thursday, Billy Harris. Saturday, Electric Rendezvous over at Big Mike's in Denham Springs. You want to get your holiday gift cards. These are wonderful stocking stuffers and, things you can hand out to maybe some of the people that work for you, work with you. Gift cards, $30 in gift cards will get you $5 off your next visit. $50 will get you $10, and $100 will get you $20. So you benefit. You get to hand out some Christmas cheer at the same time. Big Mike's taking reservations right now. Book your Christmas party, and catering is also available from Big Mike's. Happy hour drink prices all day on Sunday for the NFL. If you're watching the Saints, you probably need a cocktail to go with that. Big Mike's on Aspen in Denham Springs. We're kind of a big deal.
In times of need, get a full list of phone numbers, websites, and other important emergency information on the Demco Stormwatch page at 1045ESPN.com.
A third of youth who grow up in foster care are homeless 18 months after aging out of care. But you can rewrite that story. Change a child's story. Become a volunteer today.
There it is, the extra mile. On the border of expected and extraordinary for those willing to go further, like vans customized for work or play, with safety and tech to keep you connected, supported by a 5-star sales, service, and finance team, and backed by the 1-star you know. So go the extra mile. It's never crowded because so few have what it takes to go there. Mercedes-Benz Vans.
Crime has serious consequences, but anyone can make a mistake. If you find yourself in trouble with the law, know that you have rights, and it's okay to demand them. The law offices of O.C. Brown are here to protect you and your rights. Felony or misdemeanor, DUI or drug charge. No matter what crime you're accused of, you still have rights. Let the law offices of O.C. Brown uphold them. Call 225-343-1111. Your law firm for a lifetime.
I've been doing business with Luba for 25 years. They're dependable, trustworthy. It's just the attention to detail with our clients.
Our folks have years and years of experience. They're highly trained professionals. But many companies have that asset. What I'd like to think makes Luba a bit different is that we use those talents in a way that truly is dedicated to serving the needs of the folks who depend on us.
Gulf Coast Office Products is a nationally recognized Savin office equipment dealer based right here in Louisiana. Over 100 employees strong, Gulf Coast has the boots on the ground to support all vertical markets, from education, engineering, legal, and finance. With the latest in office technology, from desktop to production segment units, Gulf Coast and Savin have the perfect fit for you. Call 225-756-2644. That's 756-2644 for Gulf Coast Office Products.
This is a house call. This is a follow-up appointment. This is a diabetes checkup. This isn't just more convenient care, it's more advanced care. This is innovating healthcare at Louisiana's #1 hospital. auctioneer.
All right, let's say ah.
Where'd my spotlight go?
Super weird, but we can take care of it.
Jimmy out and Mike Delicano for the Tuesday evening edition of Game Time, presented by Bet Rivers. We're at Mike Anderson's on Lee, just off of Nicholson. That's Game Time, presented by Bet Rivers, 6 to 8 p.m. on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
This is Hanny Time with Charles Hannegriff on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
Transfer portal, of course, is open. JT Daniels back in the transfer portal. This guy's the Ken Brett of college football. You know who Ken Brett is? Look it up. Started games in the Pac-12, the SEC, and the Big 12. Was at Georgia last year. Actually started season. He was the Heisman Trophy favorite. I'd forgotten that. So our friend Troy Macker tweeted out earlier today, you know, he's potentially got 2 years of eligibility left. He goes play in the ACC this year and the Big 10 the year after that. Man, he'll have hit the grand slam of transfers. Thanks to everybody for participating. For Taylor Sharp, Mario Jerez, I'm Charles Hannegriff saying thank you and good afternoon. Stay tuned for Hunt Palmer. That's next, 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
This is Hanny Time.
Acura and Infinity Pre-Owned. You know, over the last several years, they've undergone massive, redos in the Acura line. Starting back in 2021 with the TLX and the TLX Type S, the RDX was refreshed in 2022. In 2023, the model year Integra. 2 years of maintenance included on new models, a new design, massaging seats, new color combinations, and the greatest technology in the Acura Integra for 2023. You know, it's family owned and operated at Acura and Infinity Baton Rouge. Bought our last several vehicles there. We're in line for another one next year. We'll be going back to Acura and Infinity. You're going to get transparency in pricing, and they're going to treat you like family. So do what we've done in our home. Check out the new line of Acura and Infinity models at Acura and Infinity of Baton Rouge.